Hey, what's up guys, it's C-Stacks here, and today I'm finally going to bring you my Quarantine Cup 3v3 deck profile and tournament report. I know it's been kind of a while, but so I was the only undefeated player in Swiss. I was the only person who didn't drop a game. Up until the last round, it was me and John Phillips, who was on Adam Warlock. We were both 5-0, but John ended up losing his last round, which left me as the only 6-0 player in Swiss. But even being 6-0, I did not top the event. So Quarantine Cup 3v3, as a lot of you guys probably know, is a 3 versus 3 team event. So even though I went undefeated, my team did not pick up did not pick up enough overall match wins to top the event, even though I did not drop a game. So I'm going to give you my deck list here. I'm going to do it a little bit different than I do most of my deck techs, where I'm going to go through the list by each individual card, and we're going to talk about it. But before that, I'm going to give a little bit of background on Quarantine Cup 3 and our team strategy going into it. So I teamed up with my Texas teammates, Robbie Stewart and Bobby Brake. Some good friends of mine. And so we got together for some team meetings beforehand, and it's you have to build 3 decks with a shared card pool. So like if I'm playing 4 shock to the system, none of my teammates can have any shock to the system, that kind of thing. You can do splits and things like that. So we landed on a ramp deck, an aggro deck, and a combo deck. So obviously I'm on ramp. I played Dark Phoenix, as you can see. Bobby played the combo. He played the Senator Kelly Cape Pride deck, and Robbie landed on Rogue. The problem arose with that. So I had a couple Dark Phoenix builds prepared. This one that I ended up playing is a Kane build, but I had a version that didn't play Canes, and it played blues and greens in addition to the yellows. But we decided to just give me the Canes, which means that Robbie was on Rogue with no Canes and only blues. So that led to some problems. We also gave me... what other thing? I have all the Mantises, like... We maybe didn't have the best overall team strategy, and we didn't come up with like cute ways to make up for the loss of Kane like some teams did. Some people's rogue decks were playing things like leader to refill their hands and to get them additional blues and to dig for stuff. So I think that was pretty clever way to play around not having access to the full card pool. But we did not have such foresight. We just kind of thought, oh, Rogue's good enough, and there's enough new aggro stuff like Punisher 29.9 and things like that we'll get away with it. And it ended up not being the case, especially in the Rogue mirror match. It was really difficult for Robbie and things like that. So our team strategy was flawed. Anyways, I did have to make a few choices with sharing cards with my teammates, but I feel like I probably hindered my teammates more than they hindered me with the shared card pool. But anyways, I'll show you guys the list that I came up with for Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix is still very, very powerful in the multiverse. The things she can do is still crazy strong. There is no main character in the game other than her who does what she does. The 2 permanent ramp is crazy. So obviously we're playing Dark Phoenix. If anybody doesn't know what this card does still, at level 1 for 2 yellows, you get to take the top 2 cards of your deck and put them in your resource row, and if they are locations, you can play them face up. So you get to... For 2 locations, you get to permanently ramp for 2. There's no other main character in the game that does that. It's absolutely insane. At level 2, you can, for 2 blues and a green, you can KO all of your opponent's face-down resources. I wasn't playing blues and greens. I think I only pulled off the Ravager once. In this list, you have to have exactly 3 wild locations to do it. You'll see why this doesn't really come up in this build as I get through the card list. I wasn't playing Monarch or anything like that. I had a Monarch version, but it wasn't the Omega I decided to go with. I was kind of going for kind of a different kind of control-based strategy, which we'll get to. But yeah, so Dark Phoenix is crazy. Most of my tournament success in the game is with this main character. So I figured it was kind of a comfort pick and something that I could do pretty well with. So let's go ahead and get into the list here, and we'll talk about it. And then I'll give you my round by round. I have some notes I'll go off here at the end. So I didn't play any 1-drops. On 2, I'm playing the 4 Kane and the 4 Mantis. So Kane always grabs a yellow in this list. We're not playing any blues or greens, so every time you play a Kane, you get a yellow, which is exactly what you need for your ramp. And then Mantis is obviously a really great card for ramp decks. You can play it with things like Dramatic Entrance. It's really good. So yeah, definitely wouldn't change anything there. The Kane only yellows was really strong. I hadn't played a list like this in a while, and I definitely really liked it. After that, we jump up to 5-drops. I don't play any 3s or 4s because we're trying to ramp as early as possible. The 5-drops I played were 3 Sheathing and 3 Invisible Boy. Sheathing is really strong. I don't think anybody played Doctor Doom. I think her downside is pretty negligible, but she's just an insanely strong card. And then Invisible Boy is far and away the MVP of the tournament. This card is insane, especially we played with open lists. in Quarantine Cup 3, which means I could just look at my opponent's list at the beginning of the round, figure out what their strategy is, and figure out what the best things is to Invisible Boy. In some matchups, this was definitely like a hard mulligan condition. Invisible Boy was like how I won the game. This card is super, super, super strong. He's also a Herald of Galactus, obviously, which is semi-relevant. We'll talk about Galactus when we get to him, but I'm not super impressed with that card. But the Invisible Boy himself is a crazy, crazy strong card. If anybody doesn't know what this card does, is for a yellow, you can name a superpower, and enemy supporting characters cannot use that superpower for the rest of the game. So in a lot of cases, this just shuts off their win condition. It shuts off their comeback mechanics. It's just a super strong card. And then She-Hulk is just like really aggressive. She it's clobbering She Time, where you pay green and she gets +10 for the combat, and she's an 8/6 with 3 health, which is like normally what she is. But yeah, Invisible Boy is a definite like huge MVP. Well, we're going to talk about the boy a lot probably when we get to matchups. After that 6 cost, I'm playing 3 Redshift. He's my other Herald of Galactus, and 3 Thing. Thing is just so strong. He's so strong. 10/6, 4 health with its clobbering time for the +10 attack. Can't be stunned back. It's absolutely crazy. Like, I would play this in like just about everything. It's like crazy, especially when you can bring it out early in this deck. It's crazy. And then Redshift, man, what an underrated 6-drop. Redshift has the Cosmic Combat Master, so your opponent cannot play Combat Plot Twist. It's so strong. It's kind of part of my whole control strategy I was trying to do in this deck. Where like my thought process with Dark Phoenix in this build is get ahead, stick something like a Redshift and a Kid Omega, which we'll get to in a minute, and just make it so you stay ahead. Completely eliminate your opponent's ability to come back. You're playing fatties and they can't combat twist out. Yeah, it's a crazy good twist, or crazy good character. Really underrated. I think these are easily the 2 best Heralds of Galactus, and we'll talk about Galactus a little bit more in a minute, but I think those are the only Heralds that are like really worth playing. And even without Galactus, I think Redshift is like a really underrated card. It like steals games for you and like makes it so you win games that like you're not supposed to win. So it's really good. I guess I have a couple other 6-drops. We also played the Maker. This card was like a last-minute addition that was like super, super, super impactful. I invented a ton of stuff off this. It definitely won me games. We'll get to his invention pile in a bit. And then the one of Leviathan Beast. It's good. I think I drew it 1 time. I don't even remember if it won me the game, but like it's really good for like answering counters, answering things like Kelly, answering problematic equipment. It's just a really good card. So yeah, onto the 7 drops. We're obviously playing the 4 Jungle Hunter. We're not playing the greens or blues to go with this, so he's always just like a 6/6. But like when you see this in Dramatic Entrance in your hand, like you're never upset. So, like even if you're not playing the blues and greens, you have to play this with 4 copies, and with the 4 Dramatic Entrance, it's like non-negotiable. I also played 2 Mr. Fantastic and the 1 more Loon, which is like the second Leviathan Beast. Again, I don't think I really ever saw this, but I thought it was like a really important card for like answering problematic combo things like Senator Kelly or whatever. Because like Kelly, like this deck doesn't have anything like early on, and like if you don't exactly hit your ramp on turn 1, like Senator Kelly can just like blow you out. Mr. Fantastic. So I just really like this card, and like I was on this Fantastic Four curve with She-Thing into Thing, and I wanted to include the Mr. Fantastic. There's probably better 7-drops you can play, but like this card did like we are playing the we're not playing reds, but we are playing the Baxter building, so like the plasticity comes up, and the invention pile definitely came up a lot. So if you wanted to lean into the invention pile but cut this, you could definitely play more Maker. I probably would try to bump Maker to 2, and you could probably play a more impactful 7, but I just really like this guy. It's a really sweet card, and it definitely helped me out. Yeah, I like it a lot. I might play it again. It was pretty cool. As on the 8 slot, my Omega of choice was Kid Omega, and then we're also playing 3 Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was insane. Like, when you bring this guy out early, like, you just win. Like, he's huge, and, like, if they deal with him, he comes back to your hand, and, like, you're on turn 8, and they're on turn, like, 3 or 4. It's so backbreaking. And then Kid Omega, again, was part of my thought process behind the deck, which was get ahead, stay ahead. Stick the Kid Omega. If anybody doesn't know what Kid Omega does, Kid Omega is, when you play this guy out, as long as he's out, your opponent has to play with their hand revealed, and then once per turn you get to pick a card in their hand, and your opponent can't play cards with that name. So every turn you get to ban a card. And like if you're able to protect this with like Dramatic Entrance or just sticking it behind flyers, like you stick this behind a Gilgamesh, and like there's like a 0% chance they're gonna make a comeback. You just ban the best card in their hand every turn. It's really insane. The other Omega a lot of people were playing in the Dark Phoenix decks were Monarch. Which is the one that lets you flip up all your locations, and you flip up everything else, and they basically become wild locations. And it makes it so you can Ravage even if you're not playing blues or green. So like I could have done the Kane only yellow build with Monarch and still been able to Ravage. The thing is, like, Ravage doesn't come up every game. We're like you don't even level every game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I guess the Monarch can't help you level, but like, I just felt like this control. I just wanted my Omega to be good like all the time, whereas like I feel like Monarch is only good in some situations. Like, even with the Monarch, I don't think you level every game, and I don't know. Maybe the Monarch version is best. I was a huge fan of Kid Omega. It hit a lot of good cards out of my opponent's hand. It was good like every time I played it. Yeah, I really like that card. I didn't actually test the Monarch version. I have a Monarch build in my deck browser that was part of our conversation, our team conversation on which Dark Phoenix deck we were going to land on. I really thought this control strategy was better. I don't think Ravager comes up every game. Most games you don't even level. So I just wanted my Omega to be more consistently good. And then topping off the curve is Galactus. We are playing a couple of Heralds. I think we're playing the only Heralds that are worth playing, which are, here I'll just pull them out and talk about them with Galactus. I played Redshift, as we said, and our other Herald was Invisible Boy. Both great cards. I don't think I would cut these cards, but however, I might cut Galactus because like I think I played this once. I was able to bring this guy out once, and it was in a match that I was going to win anyway. A lot of people are playing like dedicated Galactus builds with like a whole Herald curve. They were playing like Fallen One and Praetor and Firelord, and I think Stormwalker is the one that lets you pay a red. And I'll just be honest, I think those builds are horrible. I think these are the only Heralds worth playing. Firewalker does nothing for you. Firelord does nothing for you. Stormwalker does nothing for you. Praetor is pretty good, but Fallen One I think is terrible. I think most of the Herald curve is like pretty bad. They're pretty does nothing. They don't impact the board in any way really, except for these ones. These are the best ones. They're the only ones worth playing. And I don't even know if they justify this. The one, like I said, the only time I brought this guy out was like a game I was gonna win anyway. And like, if you're playing the dedicated Herald build, like you're just playing a bunch of cards that don't do anything for you. And then like if you're not able to stick the like if the Galactus doesn't immediately win you the game, you're just gonna lose. So yeah, I was pretty underwhelmed with Galactus, and in the current card pool, he's even worse because we have things like Hulkling and stuff, which we'll talk about upgrades you can make to the deck with the new card pool. Again, this deck was a couple months ago. Everything was legal up through crossover, I think, or no, maybe I think I decided because crossover wasn't even out. Crossover missed its date that it was everything up through whatever was before crossover. Anyway, we'll talk about upgrades, but I might cut this. I might just play better cards. Like, he looks crazy when he looks crazy, but like, and I played 6 rounds and I brought him out one time and I was gonna win the game anyway. So I was pretty underwhelmed with Galactus. A couple of equipment, nullifier. So I took the one nullifier from my team. I ended up taking it because we thought that like we didn't want to lose to like Jessica Jones, because in testing I lost to a couple of Jessica Jones against Bobby, who is playing the Kelly Kate Pride combo deck. So he gave me the nullifier, which means I stole this from my team because it's a one of a kind. It won me a couple of games, which we'll talk about when we get to matchups. I also stole the one Serpent Crown because we figured I'm a ramp deck. I can play it more efficiently. Yeah, this card actually won me one hilarious game against a Senator Kelly player, which we'll talk about in matchups. Yeah, that card's obviously great. You should always be playing that. And then Plot Twist, I played 4 Dramatic Entrance. Obviously, it's great with things like... it's the best with Jungle Hunter. It's really good with Mantis. It's good with Kane. It's okay with things like Gilgamesh because it just returns to your hand and you get to stun a guy. Yeah, definitely always be playing 4 Dramatic Entrance. And then the only weird choice I had to make with deck building was 2 Shock to the System and 2 Find Cover. Obviously, this would just be 4 Shock to the System, but I ended up going for a 2-2 split between me and Bobby. So he had the other 2 of each of these. It doesn't really matter. In most situations, they do the same thing, but like if you're playing against like something like somebody plays like an Iron Fist against you or whatever, you want to have the Shock instead. But for the most part, like it's just 4 defensive twists. It doesn't really matter. And then for the locations, just 4 wilds, 4 yellows so that your Canes always grab a yellow, and then 4 Baxter building to go with all of our Fantastic Four stuff, our things, our she things, crucially our Invisible Boy, probably the most important thing that goes with this, and stuff like that. Mr. Fantastic is the other one. Yeah, so that's the main deck. Changes, let's do the invention pile first, and then we'll talk changes. So invention pile. So obviously we have all the generic ones: the machine, the weapon, the gadget, and the automaton. I never made the automaton. I think I made the gadget once. I think I made the weapon once. And I made the machine a whole lot, obviously. Let's see. I think I made Unstable Molecules once. I made Negative Zone a couple times because the flip a guy face up mode can win you the game, which is really fun. I think that won me one game. I never made the Fantastic Car. I never made the Doom Bots. And then we get into our stuff for Maker because he lets you include equipment that aren't inventions. Time Gem, never made that. Power Gem, never made that. Mind Gem, I made this and it won me a game. Reality Gem, I made this with the intention for it to win me a game, but my opponent scooped beforehand. This card is so cool. I really wanted to win a game with this. And I don't think I ever made the Darkhold. Yeah, so the things I made out of the pile would be Mind Gem I made. I think I made the Reality Gem, but it didn't matter. I made the Negative Zone. I made the Unstable Molecules. I made the Machine. I made the Gadget, and I made the Weapon. So these are the things I made out of the pile. So yeah, Inventor is like definitely a super powerful keyword. Maker is insane. Yeah, so definitely would probably play all the Inventors again. Maybe with the exception of I probably would like swap. I think you could play, as I said, you could play a different 7. Yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about changes. So changes I would make. Obviously, there's like crazy stuff out now, like Agamotto, the 10 cost guy. I think I would probably try to squeeze in Agamotto. There's other crazy 8 cost guys you can play now, like Namor. Namor might be pretty cool. I don't think I'd play Sentry, obviously, because we're not playing the locations to make him big. You could cut this for a more impactful 7. I'm struggling to think of one right now. One card I really wanted to play that didn't make the cut was Ares, because I thought the lethal on the top end was going to be like super important. So yeah, I think I would probably cut this for Ares, but only if I was able to like bump up the Maker, because I do think the invention pile was like really like game winning. So I would try to play like maybe more Maker and like swap this out for like a more impactful 7 cost like Ares. In that vein, I think like Ragnarok is another 7-drop with lethal. I think Ares is maybe a little better because we're not playing the locations to go with our Ragnarok or any team attackers or anything. So in general, I think Ares is like a really, really crazy card. So that's where I'd probably play on 7 instead of this guy. Other than that, the deck was like super consistent. It did like everything it was supposed to do. So speaking of which, let's just go ahead and talk about matchups. So let me pull up my notes a little bit. So round 1, we played against the Thor loser. So I played against Chad Collishaw. He was playing Galactus, and I nullified Herald early, so like he just like wasn't able to level, and I just beat him up. That was like totally just RNG. I drew the I ramped early and I drew the nullifier and just called Herald. So like it was kind of mean. Round 2 was against Team Apex Black. Round 1 was a team win for us, so we went 3-0. Round 2 was against Team Apex Black. I played against Vern, who's playing Mr. Fantastic. I like invented I think 8 or 9 times in that game, so it was like a really grindy game. But like I had like all these blocks in my hand that I was inventing, so like I was never gonna lose that game. But it was really fun. It felt really grindy, but like I had like a billion cards in my hand by the end of it. That was a team loss though, so my other teammates lost that round. Round 3 was against Apex Alpha Strike, so we had Apex back to back. This was a round win for us. I played against Ralph Cole, who was on Jean Grey, and the nullifier. I kept him from leveling as long as I could. Without like, so like you can just not attack and like leave them at level 1, and so my plan was just like leave Jean Grey at level 1 as long as possible, build a board with like just like these crazy yoked people, and then like once I had a way to like keep the level 3 power of Jean Grey offline, like with like a Galactus or like a nullifier or something, then I would just start attacking and like just kill it. But I was like not drawing well, and I was like not ramping as much as I wanted, so like I eventually like had to just kind of start fighting and like hope that like I could just draw on something that stopped the power, and I eventually did get the nullifier, and I kept off the nuclear deck power, and it was playing Hyperstorm too, so like it was actually like a real danger of me like just losing all my cards. But the nullifier bailed me out on that one. Round 4 we played against like Let's Get Dangerous, which eventually topped, of course. I played against Osh, who was on Rogue. I hit the double ramp early, and then like yeah, he just like couldn't get through all my fatties, so I was just like a pretty standard like Dark Phoenix game. Round 5 was against Team Buckeye, so I played against Roland Christie, who was on this really, really sweet Mystique Hyperstorm Kelly deck. So the idea was to turn Mystique or Hyperstorm into Nebula and then copy the effect of Senator Kelly, right? So like if you can turn into Nebula and copy Senator Kelly, then like you basically just win the game. But Invisible Boy, the MVP, totally bailed me out in this matchup. So I don't remember what I called first, but I basically turned off all his win conditions. I stopped Hyperstorm from being able to transform. So like how Invisible Boy works is you name a superpower, and then supporting characters your opponent has cannot use that superpower this turn. But you can name any superpower you want. So I named Mystique's Transform, which stopped Hyperstorm from being able to transform. So I turned that off. And then this was the match where I had this hilarious thing where eventually he just hard cast Senator Kelly. And like that was all he had. I like had a bunch of fatties. And I drew for turn, and I drew Serpent Crown. So like instead of attacking the Kelly, I just let him keep it, gain the first Vitality counter, and then on my next turn, I played the Serpent Crown and I took his Kelly and I won with his Senator Kelly. It was hilarious. I felt kind of bad about it. It was pretty mean. But yeah, that was maybe my most hilarious win. But Invisible Boy was like far and away the best card in that matchup. This card is so good. It can just like literally turn off your opponent win condition in certain matchups. That was a round loss though, so my other teammates lost. And then round 6 we played against the Space Cowboys. So I played against Andy Hewitt with his Coulson deck, which was a deck that I had written off. I didn't think it was any good, but that deck is sweet. That Senator Coulson, that Agent Coulson deck that like it was like a ramp to Galactus like Coulson deck with like a bunch of agents and stuff. It was just really sweet. Like he was like looking at like a billion cards off the top of his deck, but like he was like looking at all these cards, but like he wasn't finding his Galactus, and like he was trying to get to Galactus. And I think this was the one matchup where I did eventually Ravage him, and it was also the one matchup where I did eventually stick a Galactus of my own, but like. It was crazy because like he probably got like 20 cards deep with Agent, but like didn't find his win condition, which was crazy. So felt a little bad about that. It was a pretty good, kind of a grindy match. It did go really long because like I said, he did see a ton of cards. He just didn't find what he needed, and I did eventually Ravage. So that was my last round. So I went undefeated, but I think overall our team went 3-3, and yeah, lesson learned. I think I probably took too many of the good cards from my teammates. I think I probably would have done well enough just giving these Canes to Robbie and playing the other version of Dark Phoenix that I had. This version, the Cane only yellow versions ramps faster, it ramps more consistently, and I think it's overall better. However, I think I have enough Dark Phoenix experience that I could have gotten away with playing the blue-green version and playing something like maybe Proteus. Although, again, as I said, I was a big fan of the Kid Omega. Anyways, that's my Dark Phoenix deck. I think this deck is this character is still really well positioned in the multiverse. I think you can play stuff like Namor, you can play stuff like Agamotto, you can play stuff like Ares or Ragnarok. It's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with Dark Phoenix. I do think this card probably deserves to be banned. We banned this card in the modern format, but yeah, she's still like crazy strong. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Shout out to everybody who did well in Quarantine Cup 3 and everybody who enjoyed it. I had a really good time playing in it. I don't know if I'll play in future Quarantine Cups because like me being the tournament organizer and participating created a few problems. But this was like my experience in the event as a player. If you want to hear my experiences with the event as a tournament organizer and lessons learned with that, I will be doing a full Quarantine Cup 3 recap and lessons learned type videos over on Patreon, so you can check that out. Shout out to all my patrons. Oh man, I don't have your names in front of me. I should have written that down. But anyways, shout out to all my patrons if you want to support the channel. We're going to be trying to buy a new microphone with Patreon stuff because all my videos are super quiet. You guys might have noticed that like on all my podcasts and tier lists and stuff, like my audio levels are super low. I have a good microphone. It's a Blue Snowball, but it's like several years old, and I think it's just kind of not doing so hot. So we're going to try to get a new microphone. So support me on Patreon if you want to help support the channel so we can get you some better content. So shout out to my patrons, Vern Lee, Jason Roosevelt, Justin McDowell, Robbie Stewart, and Silly Rookie. I believe that's all of you. So yeah, if you want to support me over there, go ahead and check out the link in the description. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.